Dear brothers and sisters, we want schools and education for every child's bright future. We will continue our journey to our destination of peace and education. No one can stop us. We will speak up for our rights, and we will bring change through our voice.
There are solutions that are there, but it needs the bravery, it needs the courage, and it needs the boldness.
We just wanted to make as much noise about it as possible.
Leaders have to act on the promises they made in Paris.
The SDGs are like a blueprint of what the needs of society are.
Hello, I'm Ian Phillips, Director of the News and Media Division at the United Nations, and welcome to this latest edition of the SDG Roundtables on the 12th of July, internationally recognized as Malala Day. The day celebrates the inspirational journey and bravery of Pakistani activist Malala Yousafzai, a powerful advocate for girls' rights to a quality education, and since 2017, a United Nations messenger of peace. The 12th of July is also Malala's birthday, and it's 10 years to the day that she made her powerful speech at the UN, in which she fearlessly called out the oppressive restrictions imposed by the Taliban on girls' education in her home country of Pakistan. For the last decade, this day has been an opportunity to honor the courage, resilience, and determination of countless girls who continue to face barriers and challenges in accessing education. Since that pivotal moment, progress has been made. However, many challenges remain.
Imagine what our world could be if every girl in Afghanistan, every girl in Nigeria, every girl in Pakistan, every girl in every country had the education and opportunities they deserve.
And I'm delighted to say that we can now hear from our first guest, Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, joining us live from Nigeria, where she's talking to girls in schools. And she's joined by Anne-Marie Hu, Executive Director of UN Office for Partnerships.
I am joined by the Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. DSG, you introduced your Malala on Malala Day as your daughter and sister. What are your reactions to the speech and the visit that you've had with Malala?
Well, 10 years later, as I said, the room was electric when she made her first statement, and watching that growth, watching that journey, one of impatience, one of justice for girls, and seeing where she's come to today, it's just inspirational. And it makes me feel like the future is certainly really bright and it's full of hope, which is what you need to give to young people today. And this is someone who's standing up for the courage of her convictions.
Malala's anniversary speech was in part a reflection and an amplification of the voices of the past 10 years. What do we, the world, need to do in the next 10 years?
We need to put every girl in school. It's as basic as that. And I think these are challenging times, but there are partnerships, there are leaders, there are a division of labor of how you get every girl into school, from the local government level to a community and a home, but also to leaders who are and need to see this as a fundamental human right for the girl. But it's also the building block for that nation. It's also the building block that makes us a better world, one that will have the prosperity, look at sustainable development in a way that includes everyone. And as I've often said, there's no bird that flies on one wing, and without girls and women, we are not flying high enough because we're on one wing. So I think that this is important that we say every girl in school today.
As the world reaches the halfway mark of the Sustainable Development Goals, what is your message to all the 16 and 26-year-old young women who care about getting an education?
It's possible. You've seen the journey of Malala. She's inspirational, but I also saw girls in Borno and Maiduguri, in Nigeria, of course, from very difficult circumstances who have overcome. They're not victims, they're survivors. They give us hope. We spoke to many of them, and when you ask them, what do you want to be? It went beyond a lawyer. There was a radiologist, a cardiologist. I mean, that is hope. And so for us, 16-year-olds, 26-year-olds, the future will be transformational, and it will be because you're up front and center. And I believe that as we come halfway through the stock take to the SDGs, that's what we have to reinvigorate. That's what we have to say. I think you often say the match is won in the second half. And so that's what we're going to do this time.
So we're all going to imagine winning right now.
We're winning. We're winners. Women are winners, given the opportunity, and keep going for it, because this is absolutely an imperative to nations like Nigeria, to the world itself, that girls are in education where they deserve to be, and that they come out forging a future for themselves with the right and a choice and agency for themselves.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary General and Anne-Marie. I'm now joined by 4 inspiring leaders. Awut Den Atwil, Minister of Education in South Sudan; Yasmin Sharif, Executive Director of Education Cannot Wait; Samantha Umar, a girls' rights advocate in Nigeria and member of Global GLOW, Nigeria Reads and the Butterfly Project; and Somaya Faruqi, an Education Cannot Wait global champion and the former captain of the award-winning Afghan girls robotics team. Welcome to you all. So good to have everyone here. Thank you. I'd like to start with you, Minister. You are working tirelessly for education in South Sudan, a country on the front lines of so many global problems, such as climate change, war in neighboring Sudan, forced migration. What sort of effect does that have on your efforts to do more for education for girls and women? What pressure does that put on the system?
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm very happy to be a part of these distinguished panels in New York here. And Malala, happy birthday. This is a very important day for us. Well, talking to this topic, it really touched my heart, because I would like to say that girl education had been a problems connected with the culture, with practice, and many other things. But today, the climate change, the flood, the droughts, the man-made war in our countries, plus the COVID-19 pandemic, has even made it worse for girl education in our country. South Sudan, a country that has gone for war for 2 decades, and for these 2 generations were missed out in the school. They didn't go to school because of the war. So right now, we are faced with a school that is underwater. We have crisis in Sudan where children who are school age are coming to South Sudan, our own citizens and refugees flocking into South Sudan. And those children who have been faced with a drought for 4 years have left the area to look for education, and they end up without finding the education. So these are many challenges, plus economic hardship, where countries are struggling to invest on education, but very little budget. And we feel that girl education, any country that can make a progress, it can only make a progress if you give equal opportunity to its citizen. And I want to use this word of my mother during liberation struggle. She encouraged all of us to say, you must go to school, because school is not about clothes you wear, it's about your brain. If your brain is not naked, please sit in the class naked, and you will acquire the knowledge you need, and tomorrow you will close yourself. So you could see education, and I also want to use a word of this little girl, which I visited just a month ago, and they were saying, we are struggling for education, for better life. So it means education is a tool to change from poverty to a better place. So it is about changing my life as an individual, as a family, as a community, to have a better life. So with that, I think the crisis which are facing us today call for more intervention from everyone, communities, families, government, partners, to work together to make sure that that child who needs education today have to get it.
How do you cope with the financial strains of unexpected people coming to your country from Sudan or South Sudanese returning because of the conflict? That must put enormous pressure on the economy and on your budgets. What specifically do you do to welcome those people, those children in, and give them an education?
First, when they come to the border, this is somebody who is running away for his life. The first thing we do is not to ask a paper. It is to settle that child, which is so exhausted, the mother and the elderly people and children with disability. When they come, is to save their life first. The second is to say, sometimes they say humanitarian intervention save life, but I think education save life. Any intervention in a crisis situation, and all of us have experienced that, actually remove you from the horror and terror of what you have seen. And psychologically, it helps in terms of getting you out from the situation you are coming out from. So education cannot wait has been investing in South Sudan, a project in improving access for our children, but also the refugee who are coming to our country. We were refugees at one point, and we feel responsible for anybody that is coming to have an access to education. Recently, we have received more than 100,000 people with the children who are supposed to actually have their exams in Sudan, but they didn't. So we have opened up to create a new emergency center for them to have their examination with us in South Sudan without asking any registration fee, waiving the fee, and creating an environment for them to be able to continue with the education. It is very critical that a child do not stop because of crisis. Wherever they feel safe, they must go to school.
Those are very inspiring words, and a truly inspirational mindset as well, and a generous one. Yasmin, you were on the ground in South Sudan a couple of weeks ago. What did you see, and what is Education Cannot Wait, the UN Global Fund, doing on the ground?
Thank you very much, and also first of all, a happy birthday to Malala, who indeed has been and continues to be a very strong advocate for girls' education, and also congratulations to the girls who are joining us, Samantha and Somaya, and my dear friend, Minister Achil. The Education Cannot Wait was created with the sense that it cannot wait until the crisis is over, and that's exactly what her Minister, Her Excellency, said. It cannot. That is actually the time that a child most needs education, and so we have 2 windows, and we are a fund. So our job is to work with the United Nations coordination system in country, the humanitarian rescue coordinator, our strategic donor partner, civil society, and then create joint programs which are consistent with the Secretary General's reform. And then we invest. So we just came out of South Sudan, where we see enormous progress. First of all, we see a very strong political will for girls' education. We met both with the President Salva Kiir and, of course, with Her Excellency the Minister Achil and her entire cabinet, and also together with the Vice President and the communities and the girls out there. They're very strong and they want to be educated. So we have made an investment of $50 million. It's the second phase. We actually did previous investments as well. We continue until education has been delivered to every child and specifically to every girl. We make sure that 60% of those included in Education Cannot Wait's investments are girls. But it's not enough just to create parity or take affirmative action. We also ensure that we transcend the barriers that often surround girls, because there are girls in terms of well, I think Malala mentioned that, and I'm sure Soumaya will speak to that even more clearly on the situation in Afghanistan, because there are girls. Protection, be protected from sexual violence, gender-based violence, stereotypes of what girls can and cannot do, and so that becomes a part of the learning plan. Female teachers, we place a strong emphasis on refugee teachers, female, and so forth, so that we create an environment that is conducive for girls to go to school, and also for boys to be sensitized and understand that girls represent 50% of the population and can contribute just as much. And in South Sudan, we see great progress. There's a strong political will in the government, strong leadership in the Ministry of Education, and we see very strong girls, students and teachers and civil society organizations on the ground. Where there's a will, there is a way. And South Sudan, coming out being the youngest country on earth today, and creating its independence just a few years ago, being on the second ranking lowest in the Human Development Index, it's so very important that we scale up our resources and funding for a country that has lived through, as you mentioned, wars, climate-induced disasters for decades. And at the same time, through the work we do with UN agencies and civil society, and not the least the government, the progress that can be made for girls' education if we just invest the funding.
Thank you. Let's turn to Afghanistan, and joining us virtually, Soumaya, I'd like to talk about well, your personal story, but also your opinion of what's happening currently in Afghanistan. Your personal story is really quite amazing, quite inspiring. You famously built a ventilator from used car parts during the pandemic. That changed the perception of you among men in your family and in society at large. A truly incredible story. But when you look now at what's happening in Afghanistan, is it enough for world leaders and world organizations to call for progress in this field? Are you losing hope that change can actually happen given the hardline policies currently employed by the Taliban?
Thank you for your question. So first of all, I want to say happy birthday to Malala, who is a role model for me and every young girl who stands for their right. And thank you, Malala, for empowering us and giving us courage to fight for our right. So when I was in Afghanistan, I had opportunity to go to school. But now when I see back, for my sisters who are in Afghanistan, they don't have the opportunity that I had 2 years ago. It like gives me the hope that I'm hopeful for myself, but not for my sisters in Afghanistan. But we cannot ignore these challenges, because they are the main reason of creating gender gap in Afghanistan, and as well as denying us from our basic right. So in order to solve this problem, there are many things that international community should do. It's about more than 1,600 days that schools are closed. But the international community, they help, but we need more. The first thing is support, financially support and fund to education system in every crisis-affected country, including Afghanistan. I was in the Education Cannot Wait high-level financing conference in Geneva, and I saw that many countries, they help crisis-affected countries. But it's not enough, because there are millions of girls, millions of children that are out of school, and still they are in their homes, like in Afghanistan, that their homes change to prison cells for them. For example, in Afghanistan, we can have community-based education centers for girls that they are located near to their homes, and it will be easier for them to continue their education. But we have to make sure that they have their safety and security in school. And also these centers, these community-based centers, they are safe from the attacks. Another thing is that the international community should do is offering a scholarship and promoting distance learning opportunities. In this situation in Afghanistan, that the doors of schools are closed, the only way that we can help is distance learning opportunities. Many universities around the globe, they can provide online classes for Afghan girls and any other children in all over the world that they don't have access to go to the in person to the school. So distance learning opportunity is another way to help, and it's for now, especially in Afghanistan, it is the best way. And the other thing, I believe that it's launching widespread public awareness campaigns about the girls' empowerment and the importance of their education. And it can be done through like different social media, radio, television, that today it's in this like tech world, it is really powerful. And we have to emphasize on the value of the girls' education. 2 years ago, when schools were closed in Afghanistan, we were witness like hundreds of girls in the street, but they were not allowed. Their father, their husband, their brother, they were in the street and protesting with these girls. But now, if we see there is no men supporting women in Afghanistan, so we have to have some. We have to launch some public awareness about the girls' education, so men also can support women, and we don't like stay apart from school just because we are girl, just because we are from our gender. Every girl deserves the education, and every girl has the talent to go to school to make a difference. We just need the opportunity and support.
Thank you. Samantha, I'd like to turn to you now, and I'd love to hear more about your own personal story, how you got into this field, but also what obstacles are you facing and do your peers face in Nigeria specifically when it comes to girls' education?
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm glad to be here, and as we all have said, happy birthday to Malala. We see and appreciate your good work in Nigeria. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to the question, the obstacles that we girls face in Nigeria as regards to education. There are actually a lot. You know, when it comes to education for a girl child, it entails a lot of things, because unlike the boy who just wakes up and goes to school and all of that, there are so many things attached to the life of a girl. She has to cook, she has to take care of her parents, she has to do chores, not to talk of 4 days in 4 weeks of her menstrual period, because that has to be factored into that is a major part of her life, part of our lives. So we have this we are limited because of these things, and people don't pay attention to these other aspects of our lives which are important to us, and so we suffer a lot. And again, I think one of the main issues that affects girls in Nigeria is lack of empowerment. And that is one major thing that the Butterfly Project is aimed at achieving, because we're trying to build a network of economically self-sufficient girls who would be able to cater for not just themselves but their families. With the way things aren't balanced economically in Nigeria now, most families do not have enough to take care of all the children. And truth be said, the boys will first of all have to go to school before the girls. And when that has been done, there's just little left to take care of the girl, and then just say, okay, just stay at home. And we can see this affecting us as girls. And then looking at the special needs, special things that affect us, such as our menstrual periods. We have people missing days in school because you don't have access to good water, even things to take care of themselves during that time of the month, and all of these things. And because of all these stereotypes, it's affecting our self-esteem, the way we carry ourselves as girls. And when it comes to, okay, let me go out and do more, we say, no, just leave me the way I am. Let me just stay at home and do what I am asked to do. Meanwhile, there's so much more inside of us that we can do. I agree with what the minister said. She said that the world, for the world to be great and balanced, we need both the males and the female coming together, imputing both inputs together. Yes, both inputs together. So I think empowering the girls and then looking at ways we can build our self-esteem so that we can go out for more and pursue our dreams. Yeah, those are one of the obstacles that girls face in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Well, we're certainly seeing common themes despite the differences in all these countries. In reverse order now, I'm just going to ask you all to come up with just one word that captures the spirit that you think we should feel going forward. We are halfway towards 2030. The Sustainable Development Goals include one about quality education. There has been progress, as we've discussed today, but a lot remains to be done. Let's think of one word that captures how we need to act. And in reverse order, Samantha, back to you.
Okay, how we need to act is, I think, as the goals, the pledge that is included in the goals is that no one should be left behind. And I feel even girls, no child should be left behind in education. No girl should be left behind. And in looking at not being left behind, we also have to look at the fact that early childhood education is important. Early childhood education is important. So I think I would, just one word, right? Empower her.
Empower. Very good word. I've given the others an advantage. Samaya, one word.
Powerful actions.
Yasmin?
Yeah, I'm going to do like Samantha. I need to give you just a little background because patience is considered a virtue. Indeed, it is. Being patient is a virtue in most areas of life. But there is one exception. When a girl cannot go to school, when a girl is deprived of being empowered, cannot grow, cannot develop, then patience is not a virtue. So the word I choose is, especially as we are closing in on Sustainable Development Goals, all of them, and Girls' Education and Sustainable Development Goal 4, the word I choose is impatience.
Excellent word. Minister, the final word.
How difficult it is to say one word. Yeah, I think I can say marriage can wait.
Marriage can wait. Yes. Well, thank you all for joining us today and sharing your expertise and calling for much needed action to transform girls' education. With that, we'll bring this conversation to a close, but not without once more wishing Malala a happy birthday.